occasion, giving her speech at Edna Malewa's funeral there, or memorial service. Nzinga?
Thanks, Nompumelelo. We go back to one of our top stories now, the state capture inquiry where Finance Minister Nhanhla Nene has been testifying. We cross to Parktown where reporter Mzwandile Mbeje has been following proceedings. Good afternoon, Mzwandile. Take us through the most interesting parts of Minister Nene's testimony today.
Thank you very much, Nzinga. It's been a very interesting testimony here given by current Minister of Finance, Minister Nhanhla Nene, basically starting by telling us that he actually was one of those people who did visit the Guptas at the request of A.J. Gupta to go and see the Sahara computers where they were operating. But perhaps what he said was important is that they kept on saying to him they were not involved with the state insofar as doing their business is concerned. So, but as the issue of the PIC, remember the PIC funded the independent media, and then of course the Guptas felt they also should have been part of that. And then Minister Nene said, given that they felt they were excluded, so then they requested a meeting to really try and resolve all those issues. So he says on those accounts that he then was able to go to them and meet them and try to speak about these other issues. But Nzinga, perhaps most interesting out of this testimony was that the minister believes that his firing back in 2015 on the 9th of December was perhaps occasioned by his refusal to sign a nuclear deal. He then detailed some of the events that happened that really led to him concluding that it's probably that refusal which made him really lose his job. He says in 2015 there was a BRICS summit that was taking place in Ufa, Russia, and every time before the ministers, or rather before the president takes part in those events, the ministers would ordinarily then brief the president about what is expected. He says at that meeting, the president then, President Zuma, was interested in knowing how far they had gone with the issue of the nuclear deal. Remember, the cabinet had taken a decision that there had to be some work done towards that. So he basically said, given that not sufficient work in Nzinga had been done, so he was not able to put pen to paper, though his counterpart, Minister of Energy, had some sort of a letter really which would then mean some progress has been made. So he says because he's responsible for whatever transaction that the country undertakes and the risk that the country would put itself into, so he then would not sign that letter. And Nzinga, then he says it's perhaps that which really made him very unpopular, because when he returned from Russia, he then understood that even some of his colleagues felt he was insubordinate, and then the president was apparently very unhappy with him, even telling his deputy minister, Obisi Jonas, that he was not happy that he was not able to sign that letter that would commit the country towards a nuclear deal. So basically, the evidence so far has been centering around that. But of course, the minister also got the opportunity, Nzinga, to also dispel what he says is fake news around the allegations that he facilitated the deals for his son at PIC and, of course, for the offshore accounts of his wife. So the evidence will continue after lunch, and then we expect to hear more from Minister Nene as the evidence leaders really try to dig into trying to understand what this phenomenon of state capture is.
Mzwandile Mbeje coming to us live from Parktown following that story in that state capture inquiry. He will be there when they go back at 2 o'clock. Nompumelelo, it's over to you.